Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay in the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by Orlando Homes Express, brokered by eXp Realty, proudly serving Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. Call 407-790-9957 or visit WeSellOrlando.net. All right, welcome one and all to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here on our second of two podcasts this weekend. Of course, if you've been following our feed, we had our Hall of Fame special up this week as well. And this we're going to be talking about, the current people. We got a pretty stacked show here today. We talk about men's basketball in the wake of their win over South Florida in those two teams' first meeting of the season. War on I-4. We'll talk about women's basketball coming off of a rare loss on the road at Tulane. That also happened on Wednesday night. We'll be joined by Greg Lovelady, our annual preseason interview with Coach Love as the second part of our two-part baseball season preview. And we'll also talk a little bit of UCF softball getting underway under Coach Bear. But lots to talk about here. Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy, how you guys doing? You get your coffee this morning or what?
Yes, it's 11:30. What do you? I didn't just wake up.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The Australian Open's not happening, so you two knuckleheads are not staying up until odd hours watching some tennis tournament from halfway around the world.
Look, I'm sorry that you don't appreciate sports. The Australian Open.
Listen to the broad generalities. That's such a
human being.
That is such an Eric Lopez take. I don't even know where to start with this. How you doing, Lopez?
We're doing good. We're a big baseball. Hey, baseball is here, folks. That's what I'm excited about. We got Greg Lovelady. Come on.
I know. And I by the way, we'll have some wrestling talk too.
Yeah,
for those of you who might be interested. For those of you who might be interested, we are
even our pre-taped interviews go off the rails.
Right? No, exactly. That's fine. Rails are optional. We are SB Nation's home for the UCF Knights. You can follow us at UCF_Banneret and Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret as well. Subscribe to our podcast if you don't already on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. All right, promotional messages aside, let's talk some hoops. UCF last night against USF in the at CFE, first of two meetings, and UCF gets the win 78-65. Murph, you were there along with Luke, and this was pretty much it was a blowout. There was just no doubt about it. It wasn't even as close as the score indicated. At one point, UCF was up 70-45 in this game. They had outscored South Florida in the second half by a count of I'm doing some quick math in my head here, 31 to 20, at least at one point. And that was after a 39-25 first half. USF kind of, clawed back during garbage time, but never got any closer than what the final score really was indicated. UCF's largest lead was 26 in this game. And the story, I think you would agree on this, was Taco Fall. Brian, he was 6 of 9 from the field, 9 of 21 from the line, which is actually above his average. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks. His best game probably of the year, and you were telling me before we went on, probably since his sophomore year. He was one of 4 nights in double figures. BJ, Terrell Allen, and Aubrey Dawkins were all in double figures. Colin Smith added 9, but some encouraging. UCF did what they had to do. They've won 2 in a row since the loss to Houston, and some encouraging developments in the front court.
Yeah, I think, it's just this game was 13-0. So it was really over at like the 16-minute mark of the first half.
It was also like 22-4 or something like that. Also,
it was, I mean, again, like it was just not a contest. And UCF came out with just establishing Taco Fall. Credit to him for really getting good positioning in the post. And then I guess you also have to, in some ways, credit USF's defense, which many times just didn't double him. And he just took advantage of that, or double teams were slow to get there, and he took advantage. So, he was a beast. I mean, I think at the under 8 timeout of the first half, he already had like 10 points and 8 rebounds.
Wow!
And so he ended up with 21 and 9. There were a lot of guys here that had good games. I thought Terrell Allen really played well, considering how poorly he played against SMU. If you go back and look at the SMU game, he really, really was bad. But because Taco is Taco, he's such an overwhelming presence in multiple ways, obviously. He sort of takes all the air out of the room, and the focus deserves to be on him for that night, because he was clearly, for long stretches, the best player on the court, and UCF simply outclassed a pretty good USF team.
Yeah, they held USF to 8 of 28 in the first half. And you're right. I mean, this is not the USF team that we've seen the last couple of years. And Lopez, you've spoken to this many times, that they've actually they're on the upswing of that rebuild that they've been undergoing for a time. They came into this game 17-6 and 7-4 in the league, and this was a big spot for UCF, because Temple's on their heels at 8-4 right now. The Knights advanced to 18-5, 18-3 in the league. He's still 2 games back of Houston, and Houston has that 1 game in hand also. But this was a spot where UCF really needed to shine on the home court, and I think I think the encouraging thing is they answered, I think, a lot of lingering questions that we may have had about the team going forward, especially after that Houston loss, no?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's, the broadcast, even Mark Adams said it best. I think this team still has a different gear it can go to, and I think we saw that in this game with the defensive performance. We've talked about it and written about it on Black and Gold Banneret about the defense not being what it was 2 years ago. Well, we saw that on Wednesday night against USF, and if they can turn up their defense here, they can make a run here. And I think it's not an accident. The defense was as good with Taco Fall playing at a high level. I think when Taco Fall plays at a high level, like he did on Wednesday night, the team kind of goes at a different level, and I think we saw that. And while we maybe don't expect that from Taco from an offensive standpoint every game, I think defensively he was just as big of a force, and I think that's also what contributed to the domination there. I think South Florida had no answers, and it was a very impressive win for UCF to stay in that third place spot in the American, and in my opinion, still control, their situation here and their destiny, if you will, to try to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, the rebounding numbers, UCF out-rebounded South Florida by 337-34. They held the Quincy, is it Rideau or Rideau?
It's Rideau.
Rideau. All right, well, glad I got that right. 3 of 17 from the field for him in this game. So,
the rebounding numbers are impressive, I would say, also because USF is one of the better rebounding teams in the country. They lead the conference in a couple of rebounding categories. And they actually did have Alexis Yetna, their leading rebounder, actually the conference's leading rebounder. He played 24 minutes in this game, coming back from a hamstring injury that cost him the past 2 games. I think he had 12 rebounds in that limited time.
Yeah, and 12 rebounds in 24 minutes.
UCF still won the rebounding battle, did really well on the offensive boards, which is where USF really is one of their big strengths. So really, you look at everything in this game, and there's a lot of good to take away from it.
All right, so let's take a look at the path ahead now, because next up is a Saturday matchup with Memphis. We know what happened the last time these two teams met. It was ugly. This game's on Saturday on ESPN2. Penny Hardaway coming back to Orlando, huh? And then this stretch, man, Memphis at home on Saturday. Thursday at Cincinnati. Good Lord, that's going to be a tough one. Home for SMU, which I guess is a bit of a break. They're at 500 right now and 4-8 in the league. But then you're at South Florida again. or not again, but the second meeting of the season on Wednesday, February 27th. Before you go out to Houston, home for Cincinnati at Temple. That brutal, I would say, 4-game stretch to finish out. That SMU game is the, quote, easiest, end quote, I'm using scare quotes, game of this last 6. And I don't know, it starts with this Memphis game. What are we seeing from this now? Saturday at 6 p.m. at home. I don't know. I mean, what are we looking for from here? Obviously, is this the must win that everyone's been talking about?
I mean, they have to win their games at home. I mean, we can go through a lot of different permutations about what this team needs to do to get an NCAA tournament bid. But if they lose to Memphis at home or SMU at home, that's something they really can't do. I mean, maybe at Cincinnati they lose at home. You can persuade me that that's okay because Cincinnati is a top 30 team, but they need to beat SMU and they need to beat Memphis, especially on Saturday. I will say this too: Memphis has been, for really most of the season, but especially in conference, they've been 2 entirely different teams outside of the FedEx Forum. They are completely unbeatable at home. I believe only 2 teams have beaten them at home all year: Cincinnati and Tennessee. And then on the road, they have 2 conference wins on the road this year. They're at Tulane by 4, and then at East Carolina by 10. It's the 2 worst teams in this conference. Otherwise, they've gotten killed on the road. Penny Hardaway is stressed about how much that his team doesn't play with the same energy on the road. So this is something that we're gonna probably be watching for early on in this game to see if Memphis brings the type of energy that they did when they played UCF last month.
Absolutely head-scratching team. I was looking at Bracket Matrix too, by the way, and right now UCF is still in that field of 68, sort of by an average of all of the bracketologists out there.
The season was over. I thought everybody. I
never did. I had some concerns, obviously, but I know who you're talking to there. They have UCF as a 12 seed there, so. Hey, 12 versus 5, right? That means we're guaranteed a spot in the second round.
Well, you know what my favorite one is Lenardi. So Lenardi earlier this week in his projection has UCF as an 11 seed playing Iowa. You know what that means?
Kirk Sparrow. That would be something. Yeah.
Brian Murphy would have so much material that week it wouldn't even be fun.
Oh, my God. That would be – I wonder where they would play that game, too. That would be interesting.
Well, the only bad thing about that, I think Lenardi projected that for Salt Lake in Utah.
Oh, for God's sake. Really?
Murph, are you okay with Utah there?
Let's go to Salt Lake. Let's definitely do that. No. Let's definitely first go to Dayton on a Tuesday, right. And then go to Salt Lake on a Thursday.
I'll go to Dayton. I'll hit the. I want to hit the U.S. Air Force Museum up there. That's in Dayton. That's worth checking out, isn't it?
You want to split a plane? You want to split a plane flight? You want to help me out with some? You want to help me out with some Uber fare?
I do. Yeah, I do want to point out that the other 5 teams that UCF is clustered with in that 12, because remember, 2 12s would play in that first 4. You're looking at Temple, 2 conference champs in VCU and Belmont, pretty good teams, and then Indiana, Seton Hall, and Temple. So, and that's according to bracketmatrix.com. So,
well, by the way, and Lenardi being one of them that has Temple in. So it's not like UCF's the and some, depending on where you look at. I mean, the American still has a chance to get 4 in, depending on what happens. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it. I still think it's going to be 3, but they're in position. I mean, they're the advantage. You talk about how those are rough games, but the positive is you've got a chance to enhance your resume with those games if you get some of those wins. But I agree with Murph. Memphis, you got to start with Memphis. You have to beat Memphis. Murph, I'm curious. I don't know how much chatter was about maybe what kind of a crowd do we expect for Memphis, right? Penny Hardaway coming in. You wonder if there's some casual people that normally don't come to a college basketball game or come to a UCF game, but might come because they're diehard Penny Hardaway fans, obviously from back in the day when he played
old school Magic fans, right? Yeah, a lot of pinstripe jerseys in the crowd, possibly, Murph.
Yeah, maybe like 20. What are we talking about here? Really? What are we expecting here? Like thousands of people to come out and root for the home team, but not too much because the opposing coach is a player they used to like 15, 20 years ago?
Hey, look, we're desperate here in Orlando. Okay, the Magic are terrible. I mean, at the very least, we can enjoy a little nostalgia, right?
I'm sorry. This is definitely my Orlando bias, since I'm not fully ingrained with the sports history of the city. I apologize.
Hardaway, Penny's arguably, I don't know, Jeff. What do you think? Top 3 most popular athletes of all time. I mean, I would
say 4th.
Okay, what do you got?
I got Shaq, I got T-Mac, and I got Dwight Howard.
I think he's more popular than T-Mac, to be honest with you. I think he's more popular because I think Penny led them to the finals. The little Penny. I mean, people that didn't were not NBA people like Penny.
We've now set a new podcast record for going off the rails. 14 minutes in, by the way. I just wanted to point
a connection to the. I disagree with
his connection. There's connection.
I disagree with Murph. I actually do think there'll be a little. I think he will boost the attendance. Remember, the NBA is on an All-Star break, and I do think there are going to be some Magic fans that will go see Penny in person.
Okay, well,
if the attendance is boosted, it might be for Memphis fans who travel well for basketball.
That's true too. That might help. I mean, no doubt about that. So, all right. So, again, that game, ESPN2, by the way, Saturday, February 16th at 6. All right. I want to switch over to women's here for a bit because they suffered an uncharacteristic loss at Tulane, 61-59, in a game that was absolutely frustrating because you felt like, we watched the end of this game, Eric Lopez, and it felt like UCF was obviously good enough. But let's give some credit to Tulane. They made shots down the stretch, and also the ending of this just makes you want to rip your hair out if you're Coach Abe, because UCF had the ball tied at 59 in the final seconds, and on a play, they were looking for Kayla Thigpen in the corner. And KK Wright kind of jumped up to pass. The pass got deflected and then stolen by Tulane. And then KK reaches in and commits a foul. And Tulane was in the bonus with, I think, 2.1 seconds left on the clock. And so Tulane, who was it that made the free throws? It was Aaron Gutierrez. Went right to the line with 2.1 seconds left, knocked them both down, and then that was it. Spoiled a really good game by KK, really. 21 points on 9 of 20 from the field to go with 6 assists. She did turn the ball over 5 times, but a good game for her. Great game for Sydney McDonald, too, who was 5 of 14, all from the three-point arc at 15 points to go with 4 assists of her own. Kayla Thigpen had another 10 points and 5 rebounds, 8 points and 13 boards for Masni. I mean, this is a game that, this was a real frustrating one where it just seemed like this feels like what Bill Simmons calls the no effing way game, where the AI in the computer in season mode just decides randomly that you're just not going to win this game. And that's what this one felt like because, I mean, UCF even held Tulane to 38% from the field and 15% from three-point range. Out-rebounded them 44-40 and lost this game. And it's mind-blowing. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you put this into perspective, Elo.
Well, first of all, they didn't have Nye Schuler. Schuler did not play. She was under the weather, from what I was told. So I think that you mentioned it on the broadcast, not sure. So they were out.
One of their best defensive players, certainly, yeah.
It was weird because they led by double digits early in the game, and you didn't really think anything of it. So it wasn't like, they were looking ahead to UConn or they just didn't have – they were up double digits. And I don't know, Tulane, next thing you know, Tulane would make these little runs to get back in it and then kind of stole it at the end there. I don't know. By
the way, Tulane, I should mention, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Tulane, I should mention, was up by 7 with 3:13 to go, and UCF tied the game. So, and had a chance to win. So, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's a tough loss. I mean, they lost. Tulane was a 144 in the RPI. I mean, you could look at, I'm sure you're looking at what the updated RPIs are. I don't know if they've come out or not.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
UCF was 14 going into the game. Where are they at now?
They only dropped 2 spots, 16.
So the good news there is by the hard work they have done throughout the year, that's a mulligan basically. You get a mulligan or 2. The bad news is you now have 2 losses in the conference, and you've got UConn coming in. And let's be honest, you're going to be a heavy underdog against UConn. I'm sure, I don't know, Murph can maybe give a better party line about the chances against UConn than I can. But you lose to UConn now, all of a sudden you're tied with Cincinnati more than likely for second. And, you know, if you're UCF for the NCAA tournament, I think their resume is in pretty good shape, but you don't want to be dropping a couple of games. You want to separate yourself from the pack. You don't want to get thrown into the pack. And the issue that UCF has down the stretch is there are no quality wins outside of UConn. There's no quality wins at all in this conference. So you can't really trip up too many more times. I think you're throwing a mulligan. I think it helps that the game was on the road. I think you get punished more if you lose at home in a game like that. But, you know, that now all of a sudden they're going to have to work, and it's going to be a battle down the stretch to hold off Cincinnati and others for that second spot. That's the significance of this loss.
Well, UConn is coming up on Sunday at 2, and that game is listed to be televised on ESPN3.
That's correct.
And then
it's one of those SNY games. UConn
yeah.
You know, when UConn's not on ESPN or ESPN2 a million, bleeping times, forced down our throats, they will be on SNY.
Forced down our throats. Well, meanwhile, they're if it's anything like it's been the last 2 years, you're going to see a lot of UConn fans at CFE Arena because they're a draw.
Unless Murph wants to scoff at that too. Does he not think that we not see UConn fans there, Murph?
No. On the contrary, I was there last year. There were a lot of UConn fans there, and I just restate my point that I do not believe that UCF fans will be showing up for Penny Hardaway. Memphis fans would show up for Penny Hardaway because that's what they do. So again, don't try to pettifog the issue here. Okay.
Pettifog. Good SAT word, by the way. Pettifog.
I am glad you brought last year's game up because I think, remember, UCF held UConn to their fewest points that year. Last year, 55 points.
59 was it 59 points last year? Or 55, I thought.
55. I think it was like a 55-37 final. And they have to
something like that.
You cannot run, as they found out in their first meeting earlier this year. You cannot turn the ball over. You cannot and get into an up-tempo game. You will get destroyed by UConn with Collier and Samuelson and company, who are going to be fired up because you got people like Jeff that's trying to make a case for KK Wright for Player of the Year. We don't, it's just going to be ugly.
Don't you bring that up here. I don't want to hear what they say.
But I do think they got to slow the tempo down, half-court the game, protect the basketball. And I think if they can do that, they can defend UConn and kind of be a similar game to last year if they have a shot to pull off this upset. Otherwise, it's going to be a challenge.
Let's be honest here. I'm not saying I don't have faith in UCF. I think that even if UCF plays their best possible game, you still need UConn to have an epically bad game, right? It's kind of like the Giants and the Patriots in the Super Bowl 11 years ago. Like, even if the Giants played their best game, which you did, you could still lose to the Patriots, right? Now, it just so happened that the Giants did play their best game. New England did not play their best game, and the Giants got fortunate. You need a ton of breaks. You need a few people to just not make shots. I don't know. You might need somebody to get sick and not, and not play. UConn is UConn. Like a buddy of ours says, Eric, Duke is Duke, right? Well, UConn is UConn. But I think you're looking ahead again to those last 4 games after UConn. 2 on the road, 2 at home. At Wichita State, they're second to last in the league. Home for Temple, they're in the middle of the pack, but 8-15 overall. Home for Tulane, who just beat you. They're 15-9. Not bad, but 5-6 in the conference. That should be a winnable game, certainly a revenge game. And then at Houston, which is your best remaining game, they're 6-4 in the league and 12-11. So, if UCF does lose to UConn, that would tie them in the loss column with Cincinnati. And I think that's the point that you're making right there. Is then at what point do you and I know UCF had the 1-point win against Cincinnati earlier this year, and that's certainly a game in hand. But you're
Very
right.
Significant.
Yeah, the margin of error for those games, especially because you just don't know what kind of punch you're going to get from Tulane and at Houston, road game to finish out the season on CBS Sports Network. You don't know what you're going to get. One little slip, and then all of a sudden you're on the same side of the bracket as UConn for the conference championship. So. Yeah,
and you could be in the bubble.
Yeah,
that's the more significant story. The problem is you drop maybe 2 of those games you just mentioned down the stretch, or 2 of those 4 games that could get you into the bubble, because again, the league is down, and you're not getting any quality wins, but you might get some bad losses in your resume.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. What we're looking for here is a good effort, stay healthy. Kind of, I would love to see a situation where, hey, maybe the game's in doubt down the stretch. Who knows? But I think the other thing is, you have to shake off that game as quickly as possible and get ready for the game.
Well, don't turn the ball over. If they turn the ball over like they did in the first quarter in the first meeting, that's where UConn just feasts off of you. They have to protect the basketball. You know that UConn's going to press a little bit early as well.
Got to pass well, it's and run the shot clock and limit their possessions. So
shorten the game.
Yep. So all right, we'll be watching that again Sunday at 2 p.m. on ESPN3, UCF against UConn. All right, we're gonna take a break. Come on back. Murph, Elo, and myself are in the room with Greg Lovelady, head baseball coach at UCF, for part 2 of our UCF baseball preview. We sit down with Love to talk about the upcoming season, what he's got planned, little rotation talk about the guys who he's expecting to step up in the order, and, baseball talk, because we love baseball talk, as always. So stick around. Coming up next, we've got that and plenty more. It's the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We're back after this. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is brought to you by Orlando Homes Express, brokered by eXp Realty. Sam Unger and his team at Orlando Homes Express proudly serve Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties, specializing in buying, selling, and new construction. Sam is a very proud UCF graduate, class of 2006, and he's got a special deal going on right now for the 2018 UCF football season. Night fans, in honor of UCF's 25-game win streak, Sam is running a special for the whole month of December. If you use him as your realtor to buy or sell your home, you'll receive up to $2,500 at closing. So, if you're ready to buy a new home or sell your current home, upgrade or downsize, Sam and his team have you covered so you can find the right home at the right price in the right location. So give them a call right now at 407-790-9957. Again, that's 407-790-9957. Or visit them on the web at WeSellOrlando.net. Again, that's WeSellOrlando.net. You can also reach them on Facebook at Facebook.com/WeSellOrlando. Get in touch with Orlando Homes Express today and make finding your dream home a reality.
Eric Lopez here, and when you're not listening to me on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast yelling at Jeff Sharon or talking baseball with Brian Murphy, you can actually listen to me on another podcast with a fellow UCF alum, a lot smarter, Victor Anderson and I, as we host In the Circle on Fast Pitch News twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. We cover all the world of softball. So if you're UCFA, we talk UCF, we talk how Coach Gillespie's going to do at Iowa. We talk all the topics in college softball, pro softball, and international softball. So give us a follow on In the Circle SB on Twitter and on Facebook. It's In the Circle on Fast Pitch News twice a week on the podcast. Check us out there. Back now to the Black and Gold Banneret.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you. blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret on Twitter. Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. Let's dive into part 2 of our 2019 UCF baseball preview. Last week we heard from some of the players from Media Day and sort of discussed how we expect things to break down. And this week, gentlemen, we all crowded into Greg Lovelady's office for our preseason interview with Coach, which is the last 2 years we've done this has just been a blast. We finally all got in there and just shot the breeze about baseball, which is great. One of my most fun things to do, because I mean, Greg is so, he's laid back, he gets it, and he's just the kind of guy. I could talk with him for, if he would let me, for hours just about the game itself and how you actually strategize baseball and understand, and understand the baseball understand the game from a player's perspective. Murph, I loved it to death, didn't you?
Well, he's always very approachable, and I love that he allows us to do this. Come in and take up his time for 30 minutes, 35 minutes. 3 days before the start of his season. It's really, and again, he's very honest. He's very open. He talks. He loves to talk, which is great for us. And it's really becoming it's a nice little BGB tradition what we've got here. It's our annual preseason face-to-face one-on-one or now 3-on-1 interview with Greg Lovelady.
It's we got to break out the Jim Nance voice and say it's a tradition unlike any other. So
yes.
All right, let's dive right on in. Here is our interview with UCF head baseball coach Greg Lovelady. All right, we are back in the coach's office with Greg Lovelady getting ready for the 2019 season of UCF baseball. And now it's me, it's Lopez. Brian, is Brian going to join us a little bit later? Or is he stuck in basketball?
He's jumped the ship to basketball now.
Okay, well, all right. Well, you're stuck with us now.
Sorry.
Right, so, but however, I did promise you guys that we will set aside the final 5 minutes to talk wrestling.
I'm very upset with that industry right now, but that's another story. But
what happened? We'll talk about that in the last 5 minutes. All right, Greg Lovelady joining us here to talk about 2019. And last year, 2018, you're heading into your third year now. Last time we talked to you, you weren't all that thrilled about how things kind of ended up. Let's just put it that way. And yet, this team finished 35-21, was above 500 in the American. The tournament didn't go obviously the way you hoped, but everything was right there. So my question to start out is, based on how last year ended, have things gone the way you've wanted to as you begin this season?
I think so. I think we spent a lot of time on we have it's a weird situation this year because we have so many returning guys, but the other situation we still have 16 new players, so half our team is new, and so we get a lot of starters back. So that, especially offensively, that really helps us, I think, with the experience. And then on the mound, we have we lost a lot of guys to the draft, but we have also Chris Williams and Jordan Spicer are back on the weekends, and then we brought in 2 grad transfers and a couple of junior college kids that are really going to help us. And so, but I think the biggest thing for us was the team camaraderie and getting those new players acclimated. But I felt like last year, I think that some of that really affected us, and also a learning experience. I think that last year, we were so talented. I felt like we really underachieved, and I think that's why it was really hard to swallow not making it to the tournament. When you kind of think you're that kind of club and you don't make it, it's like, we were so close. But I felt like we had a chance with the talent that we had, especially on the mound, that we could have been better. So I think it really, really bothered me. But we also learned that just because we were talented, it just doesn't mean that you get in the NCAA tournament. You still got to show up, you still got to win. And so I think there was a lot of days where maybe we just went through the motions, or the guys just kind of threw their gloves out there, this game doesn't matter, or whatever the case is, we're going to win it. And I'm hoping that was a punch in the face, that they realized that every game matters, every practice matters, every rep matters, and if you want to be the best team that you can and make sure that you're not on the bubble, then you got to be able to maximize every day. And so the team camaraderie has been great. The transfers and the JUCO kids, there's a lot of guys that are really comfortable in their skin. Obviously, the 23-year-olds they're already men, and so there was no step I got to be careful on eggshells. They just walked in and said, "This is who I am. Let's go get better." And so I think that just. It's amazing. We had a meeting, and all the new players, the first day, which they had probably been in town for maybe 3 or 4 days, and it was they were all best friends, and and they were real loose, and I was like, this is just weird. Usually it's more quiet, everybody's around me, coach is here. And that's not how it was, and so camaraderie's been awesome, and I think the experience is going to definitely help us this year.
That sounds a lot like when you got here. If you think back to your first year and how the atmosphere really changed. I feel like and you also had a lot of senior leaders that year too. Yeah. Do you feel that same way? Kind of some parallels with that team?
It's kind of too early to tell. I I haven't seen the leadership that team had yet. But I don't know if I sat here the week before the season started and said, like, these guys, these seniors are great leaders. They had done a great job of buying in, but it's hard to tell when you're not competing and there's not any failure, like, who really is a great leader. It's really easy to be a great leader when things are going right and you're at practice and you got a new coach and you're trying to impress them, that kind of thing. But once things start going wrong, like, then where's the leadership go? So we got a lot of experience, and I'm excited to see kind of who steps up as the leaders when a game doesn't go the right way or a week doesn't go the right way, and kind of see if we have that type of leadership that we did my first year.
Obviously, you've decided on your weekend rotation. What goes into a decision like that? I know when we talked a few weeks back on Media Day, you were still trying to figure that out. Just take us through that process. Obviously, it's only the opening weekend, so it could change on a given weekend. But talk about the weekend rotation you've decided.
Well, I think you're trying to give guys a chance. I don't want to shut down the competition at any point. I want guys to, think or know that they have a chance to continue to compete. I want to see guys that aren't going to rest on the fall or the past experiences. Like, I want to see guys out there trying to get better. And at the end of the day, like I always tell the guys, like, my loyalty is to the 35 guys as a group. And so I want to make sure that we put the best guy out there on Friday night. Not the best guy that pitched last year, not the most experienced guy. I want to put the guy that I think gives us the best chance to win the game, and I got to get as much information as I possibly can. I want guys to compete till the end, and so again, I think going in, there's been a couple changes, obviously, with Willie not being able to be there. But I think, again, even if you had asked me what we thought our rotation was going to be going into January practice to what it is now, it's slightly different. And so the guys did a great job. But obviously, Grant Schuerman is going to pitch on Friday nights for us. Just, again, has over 200 innings at Furman, grad transfer. He's old. He's been through the ringer. He understands what the preparation is like. Things don't get to him. Even when he's pitched, and got himself into some jams at practice, he's not going to panic and freak out. Like, he's been in that. He knows how to manage innings. He knows how to pitch. He's a left-handed pitcher that's not going to blow you away with velocity, but he has just that experience and that kind of, just the way about him that he can compose himself on the mound. And so he'll go Friday night. Saturday will be Trevor Holloway, junior college kid from Chipola, who did an unbelievable job of helping them win a national championship. Was probably their best arm the last month of the season when they ran through the playoffs. And he's got some great stuff. Just being able to harness it and being able to compete every week is going to be a big step for him, but at this level especially. So I'm excited, though. He's got Friday night type of stuff. You just got to be able to throw enough strikes and be able to control the running game and do those types of things. And then Jordan Spicer will pitch on Sunday. Obviously, a guy that got 6 starts for us and 15 appearances last year. So he's kind of gone through. He's a guy that I think the experience and the maturity that I've seen over him over the last 12 months has been really remarkable. And so, there was glimpses of greatness last year, and then, outings where it just was a disaster. And so I think he's going to be a lot more consistent just because of his approach and the maturity and the experience, and he knows what to expect. I think he's going to be really going to help us a lot, going to win a lot of games for us on Sundays.
With the bats, the good news is you got 4 of your top 5 hitters back.
Yeah.
There he is.
Sorry. Hey guys.
What's up, Murph?
Hey guys.
Murph is here.
We were just waiting for a question. Like, you start asking a question, then I can budget. I didn't want to budget in front of your answers.
You can budge in whenever you want.
No, he was giving gold. I had to. Anyway,
We already told him you sold us out for basketball.
Yeah, he threw you under the bus.
He's going to tell me that I'm asking the next question wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask you next, because we just got done talking about the pitching. In terms of your bats, you got 4 of your top 5 back. That's the good news. The bad news is the top guy's gone. Mm-hmm. So what are you expecting from that particular group, and who do you want to see step up?
Yeah, obviously Rylan Thomas is irreplaceable. But with the experience and the depth, I think 1 through 9 that we have this year, I think we're going to make it up on not one guy. It's impossible to make up trade one player for one player when you're talking about a guy like Rylan Thomas. But I think 1 through 9 is going to be able to make up for it. So again, I don't think we're going to have that one guy as good as Rylan, but I think we're going to have 9 better guys than we did last year. So I think those hopefully will be able to kind of make up for it. So obviously Dallas Beaver and Tyler Osick are the 2 power guys in the middle of the lineup that have a ton of experience, a ton of at-bats, and they're going to kind of be the power guys that are going to take over for what we lost with Ryan. Obviously having Ray and Micah back is going to be two guys that can steal bases and get on base for those guys that are going to knock them in. Anthony George missing last year. He was one most improved players in the fall and in January, and he's got a chance to really be one of our better hitters. Griff Bernardo, who started, 20-something games last year, 30-something games, is had a great summer, had an unbelievable fall. Just a different person, leadership-wise, different person, confidence-wise. He's going to probably be the biggest guy that we need to have step up and play a lot better than he did last year. But what I've seen so far has been nothing but that. So I'm excited about that. Obviously, Brandon Hernandez, who hit 9-hole for us all last year, has continued to grow. And again, the experience, he's just having tougher at bats. He walked a lot last year, just didn't have a high average. So I expect him to hit a little bit better and still continue to walk and steal bases, and he'll probably hit 9-hole again. But those are the type of guys you want in the 9-hole to get on base and get the top of the order and somebody on base to bring home. So and we got a guy like Pedro Castellano, a junior college kid, who's probably been our best hitter the last 3 weeks, and so we're kind of excited about what that's going to bring and what he's going to do for us. And then you got a guy, Dalton Wingo, again, who was a freshman last year, who has the ability and just needs to kind of put it all together. And so again, if he ends up being the guy that I know that he will be at some point, the sooner he gets to that, it's going to be a shot in the arm for our offense. So those guys are kind of the 9 or 10 guys that are really gonna really help us right from the gate, and then you kind of see how things go.
When you got a guy like Anthony back, how much, obviously offensively he had a great fall, but also how much does he help you with your pitching staff and his ability to catch?
Logan Heiser did an unbelievable job last year. He was a guy that had started obviously for 3 or 4 years. Obviously with the hip issues, that was probably his biggest downfall, and just being hurt and staying healthy. But Logan was tough just because of physically it was hard for him to play every single day. The catching just wore on him. It affected his offense so much. But at the end of the day, I told him, I don't care. I just be a great catcher, manage the staff. And so, it's tough to lose a guy like that. Losing a catcher that can handle a staff is very, very difficult. So it's a seamless transition to go a guy like Anthony, who has the experience, who's older, who knows what it's like, who's been in the program. He's not a transfer or whatnot, so he knows, especially all the returning pitchers, and being the number one guy from the get-go out of the fall. He's done a great job of getting to know all the new players. So it makes a seamless transition defensively, and then hopefully now with his offensive prowess, it just gives us another bat in the lineup that's really just going to help us again make up for the loss of Ryland.
Do you think Tyler Osa? You talked so much about Tyler Osa in media day. Does he have the highest ceiling of any offensive piece here?
In terms of numbers wise, yes. Dalton probably has the highest upside in terms of just physical ability. But Tyler can just hit. He's just a hitter. He is just a professional hitter where he has professional at bats. He's not a guy have to pull the ball. He hits the ball to all fields. He's in the cages at all times. He wants to hit. If you told him, he doesn't like the DH, but if you told me he couldn't hit, he'd quit baseball. That's just what he loves to do, and he takes a lot of pride in it. And I just think, again, he missed the whole year before with Tommy John surgery in junior college, so he hadn't played in a year. Then he came here and just again learning what this level was like. He'd gone to an NAIA school out of high school. Not that he was unprepared. He had a great year, and I think that again a lot of it was new and learning how to handle it all and the pitching, and knowing that again there's no easy weekends. It's a grind every time. And how do you have an at bat? How do you have a weekend not allow things to bleed over? And again, I think that he's out to prove. I think that he's kind of been shortchanged on a lot of things in terms of all conference and draft stuff as a numbers that he's had, in terms of being one of the top, seniors in the country offensively. And, I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he's excited to go out there and prove it. He's been working really, really hard, and I know he cares about, and he's been a great teammate, a much better teammate, and really more about the team than himself. And even though that stuff's motivating him, he wants to win. He wants to end on a good note, and so I'm expecting a huge year out of him.
Matthew Micah is a 4-year starter. Leadership starts with him, I assume, maybe on this entire team.
Yeah, he's a different type of leader. He just brings a lot of energy. He's high energy. If you're at practice, I got to put earplugs in sometimes. Just so much as he is screaming and yelling and talking.
He's FaceTiming you a lot.
Yeah, he FaceTimes me all the time just to say hi and check in, or ask me a question that is irrelevant that he could have waited till tomorrow or texted me about. But that's him, and that's his personality, and you have to accept those kids for what they are. And as a head coach, I'm very aware that personality can be a really good thing, and so I had to have a lot of conversations with Matthew about the line and where we draw it and making sure he doesn't cross it. And it's a constant conversation, but he wants to get as close to that line and have as much fun. He brings a lot of energy and positive laughter, and can kind of break the tense moments or whatnot. And so, but he plays the game extremely hard, and he loves to play, and that's something that is really hard to teach. And so it's always good to have that guy on the field playing that hard and with that type of energy. That's going to help hopefully rub off on everybody else.
Except for the phone bill.
Except for the phone bill.
Let's talk about the bullpen, because it's such a big part of college baseball in general today. With all the technology now, it's harder for starters to throw complete games because of all the advanced technology and information. How do you feel about your bullpen here going into the season? Do you feel you have a good idea about everybody's role, or is it one of those things as the season goes out, you'll try different things in the bullpen?
I think you try different things always. I think those first 5 weekends are always a test for conference and trying to figure out what's the best role. You have ideas always, but when the lights go on, it always changes. A guy like Garrett Westberg, who last year at this time of year, I don't think we had high expectations for, and he didn't pitch the first weekend or two, and then threw in an inter-squad game and threw a little bit better than he had before. Probably was a little bit upset he wasn't playing as much as he wanted to, and just how the bullpen worked out. Next thing you know, he was the last guy to go save the game against Florida, and he went out there and was unbelievable, and we were like, wait a minute, who's that? And then so the next night he came back and saved it again against Florida. And so really I think when the lights go on, it changes everything. So obviously we have him back, and so we have high expectations for him. Jeff Hackinson, who had our worst ERA on our team last year, but every other number, batting average against, strikeout to walk ratio, or strikeouts per 9, he had the highest. And he's made an unbelievable jump. He went out and had a great summer. He was throwing 88 to 90 miles an hour last year. He's touched 97, but usually pitching in the 93 to 94, 95 range, and it's really, really hard to hit. He's got a Max Scherzer type delivery with a big head jerk, and all of a sudden, you kind of see a bunch of things flailing, and the next thing you know, the ball's coming in. So 94 looks like probably 100 in terms of the way hitters can pick it up. So I think he'll end up being the closer just because of the stuff. Kyle Kemp is, again, the other grad transfer from Lipscomb, has pitched in a ton of innings and a ton of big games. He saved games, he started games. He was Lipscomb's guy for the last couple of years, where when they needed an out, he was the guy on the mound. If they needed to bring him in the 7th when the bases loaded, that he was the guy. And if it was the save situation, he was the guy. And if it was a big midweek game and they wanted him to start and throw a couple innings, he was the guy. And so missed in the fall with some tenderness in the elbow, and we just kind of wanted to baby him. But he was up to 94 yesterday in inter-squad, and he's kind of getting healthy and getting better, and again, he has that maturity and the experience that we needed at the back end. Zach Helzel, a JUCO kid out of Miami-Dade, by the wings of Liberty. He's from State College, Pennsylvania. Low arm angle, sidearm guy. He's been really, really impressive. He's one of those guys that's real comfortable in his own skin. He works really, really hard. He knows what he is. His velo's been climbing a little bit, and he's had a lot of success. Yesterday he looked really, really good in inter-squad games. So, and then Jack Sinclair, who's was a kind of a midweek starter last year, and we've kind of shortened the innings in terms of letting him go 1 or 2 innings at a time, and I think that's kind of let him rear back and fire it, not try to keep anything in the tank. So his velo's up. So I think those guys have really stood out, and I think that's 5 guys that kind of at the back end of the bullpen. I'm really excited. That's where games are won and lost in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. And you better have guys that can shut the door, that have the stuff to be able to face lefties or righties and get them out. And I think that we have those guys that can do that.
Last year you had Bryce at the start of the year just kind of penned in as the closer, and then as he started to struggle, it became more of a role-less bullpen. It just whoever is right for the situation. So is there a true closer on this team, or is it just your high leverage guys that you use in high leverage situations?
I think in the past I'd like to have a lockdown closer, but again, I think it becomes really hard when you're facing 3, 4, 5 in the 8th inning. Mm-hmm. Do you wait and put in the second best guy, or do you let the closer go in and throw the 8th and then bring the next best guy to face 7, 8, 9. So I mean, I think the options are plentiful. I think Hackenson and Kemp are the two kind of guys that we feel like have the ability to save between their stuff and their experience. So I don't know if one of them. Again, I think I'll use those first 5 weeks to see if one of those guys really separates themselves. But I think, some of the leverage situations, some of the things that are important. Like if you told me, hey, it's the 8th inning, the bases are loaded in 2 outs, and we're bringing in somebody, like right now I'm going to bring in Kemp just because he has that experience, and then I'll let Hackenson go out in the 9th inning. If it's a clean inning and it's 3, 4, 5, then I probably would let Hackenson go out there and in the 8th, and then let Kemp come in the 9th. Just a clean inning, again, until we kind of get through those first couple weeks. And again, Jeff didn't pitch in a ton of high leverage situations last year, so I want to see him in those kind of situations and how he handles it before I kind of go and anoint him as the closer or whatnot. And again, Kemp, I haven't seen enough of him. I've seen enough to know that he's really good. I just haven't, again, seen him. He hasn't had to close out a game or an inter squad or whatnot where something's on the line. So again, I think that's what the first 4 or 5 weeks are about, is finding what's the best role and who we trust the most and who can handle the pressure situations.
Oh, go ahead.
You got a new pitching coach to run it with Nick, bringing him in. What was it about him that you felt that was the right guy to bring in?
Obviously a little bit of comfortability knowing Nick for the last 9 years. Obviously Xavier was 40 minutes away from Wright State, so we when I was a recruiting coordinator at Wright State, we were on the road, hanging out, and then obviously we were playing each other 3 or 4 times a year. And Xavier is a very, very tough place to recruit to. Just a private school. It's $60,000. With the competition up in Ohio, there's 12 Division I baseball schools, and so the success, obviously the Ohio State is just Ohio State, and the success of Wright State and Kent State, and obviously Louisville and Indiana, and those schools are coming in and taking kids. It was amazing just to see the success that they had. I mean, they were one of the top, Wright State, Kent State, and Xavier were the 3 best teams in Ohio. And I think it was really, really hard to find finished products to come to Xavier. And so they were kids that, were, okay, that's a good player that they signed, and then 3 years later you're like, jaws dropped, and he's throwing harder than anybody else, and he's an all-conference guy, and so you just saw this unreal development. The basis of my recruiting philosophy and what we want this program to be about is about developing and getting kids here and making them better, not only on the field but off the field. And so, again, I don't know if there is anyone that has developed pitchers the way that he has in terms of being non-draft guys to draft guys. I mean, it's one thing to take a guy, at a big school and say, hey, this guy is good, and then 3 years later he's a first rounder, and again, that's great development, but that gap between what he was when he got there to what he was when he left isn't nearly as good as the guys that Nick had that were coming in that probably not one scout knew about, and then all of a sudden being a top 5-round draft pick. That gap was so big, and that's what I was looking for to continue what Justin had done, is to make sure that we continue that development process. And I think I probably went a step further just with the amount of knowledge that Nick has, and just making sure that every part of their body and their arms are developed, and making sure that they're prepared, the most prepared pitcher out there every time they go out there. I mean, it's been remarkable just to see the amount of work that the pitchers have put in to get where they're at right now.
Go ahead. Do you, looking at this staff and this team, you've got the stadium now, it's nice for a change not to have construction around.
Speaking of finished product.
The stadium's kind of a finished product. I mean, how do you feel about the stadium now that's looking? Do you feel that certainly there's a vibe there? Because I remember last year there was a lot of distractions and things, and maybe that kind of foreshadowed the season. Now all of a sudden everything seems to be complete. Everybody can focus on and locked in. Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, the less we're worried about where the construction guys are and if somebody's going to die, the more we can focus on trying to throw strikes and hit the ball. So definitely, I think it was just a lot of outside noise at the beginning of the season that took away from the opening night and the first month of the season. But I mean, for me, for sure, I sat here looking out my window like, yelling, and every time I saw somebody sit down and get up, let's get this thing finished. Like, I got a timeline here, so, and I'm not having to worry about that, but just being able to concentrate on the guys and the season, and not making sure that people aren't going to show up because the stadium's not ready or whatnot. Like, I definitely think it brings a different vibe, and to know that we're going to be more focused on playing the games, especially me as well, than we are about whether the stadium's going to be ready or what's going on up there. So it definitely helps to have it all done and not have to worry about it anymore.
This university as a whole has had a lot of NCAA, just a lot of access, because you had men's soccer, volleyball, both basketballs put themselves in position. Mm-hmm. Obviously, football did what it did, championship, and then cheerleading won a national title. So with all this sort of NCAA tournament success, does that put pressure on this program, or you specifically?
I mean, I think for sure. I mean, you're obviously trying to keep up with the Joneses. I mean, you don't want to be the team that's bringing the university or the athletic department down. And so, but I think it's healthy. I mean, it's not oh my gosh, like we got to do better than them. Or I think it's just healthy competition to know that, hey, like these other programs are answering the bell, and we gotta do our part. And I mean, I think that we talk a lot about making sure that we want to try to be the gold standard of the athletic department, and there's a lot of teams that are vying for that and fighting for that, and I think that makes us all better. I mean, it pushes everybody, and you see what football's doing. You see every sport. Again, you hit it on the head. I mean, everybody's doing such a great job, and so a true testament to Danny and the administration. But we got to be able to match and bring that same type of energy and to bring the same type of success. We have the ability, we have the resources, we have the things that we need to do that, and now we got to go out on the field and be able to show it. And so again, I definitely think it brings some more pressure, but I think it's healthy competition, it's healthy pressure, and the guys understand, like, hey, this is what the standard is at UCF, and we got to do our part.
Schedule, tough schedule. You got Auburn week 2 after you Siena. You got Stetson the midweek. So you got Florida going there. You got Florida State. You got Miami on the schedule. And this conference, top 5 conference. I keep repeating that to everybody, that people don't. I think this is the flagship sport for the league. It's one of the best, conferences in college baseball. Just discuss that schedule and kind of your philosophy behind it.
Well, I mean, I want to play the best teams possible. I mean, every weekend I want to preseason. I want to try to challenge us for conference. I want to make sure that we're prepared for that. I also want to play regional type teams because I want to make sure that we have a gauge of this is what. You bring in a team like Auburn, who's going to be a top 10 team, and you say, okay, here we go. Let's measure ourselves up against a top 10 team. You want to go to a super regional? This is the type of team you have to compete with, that you have to beat. So where are we? And so sometimes it can be eye-opening in a negative way and be like, whoa, like we got a lot to work on. And something can be like, okay, you see how close we are. Like these are the types of teams that are going to super regionals, and we were this. We were just a little bit deficient here. We were better than them here. We were a little bit deficient here. We were better than them in here. So let's work on those deficiencies. Understand that, hey, like we can compete with these guys, and hopefully that brings a sense of confidence for the rest of the year. But also when you get to the playoffs, like we're battle tested and we understand, and there's never that like, okay, like all right, we made it through conference. Now we're in a super regional or regional, and we're playing Auburn, like. Okay, this is a bit. No, this is. We played this. Not going to be Auburn, but it could be somebody else. Where it's like, hey, this is an equivalent of Auburn, and we hung with those guys. These guys are no better, no worse. Let's just go out. We worked on the things we were deficient at. Now let's go play the game. And so there's, it just takes away that just kind of that open-eyed. When you go into a regional, you can kind of be like, oh my gosh, all right, like we have to beat these guys. No. They're no different than the other teams we played all year, and so I think that gets us ready. And then obviously the conference is just an absolute grind. Like it's amazing how difficult it is, and the amount of pro prospects and like just dudes that are out there in the depth. And there's no off weekends, like 0 off weekends. I mean, you can lose 2 out of 3 to any team in our league. I think it's unlike any other league in the entire country in terms of that. I mean, I think we're. Again, from you talk about top to bottom in terms of the amount of pro prospects, the amount of NCAA teams, percentage-wise, like I think we're the second best league in the entire country, it's a lot tougher than I probably thought it was when I came here, just from the outside, and just seeing the coaching and the players, and again just how difficult it is every single week. It's for this game, especially the game of baseball, where it's literally a failure-based game, and to know that, sometimes you like those weekends where you get to kind of pad your stats, feel better about yourself. There are none of those. And then with our schedule this year with VCU and Penn State and Jacksonville, there's there's none of those weekends. It's a grind every single weekend. Makes us tougher, puts us in a better shot to make it in the NCAA tournament with RPI-wise. But you still got to win some of those games, and so we got to be prepared every weekend. But again, I think that's a great challenge for us to get ourselves prepared for the regionals.
You're Miami and Florida State. What's unique, of course, as I see a photo with Jim Morris, he's not going to be there, which is going to be strange when you say go play Miami. Mm-hmm. This is Mike Martin's last year at Florida State. Before you know it, you're going to be one of the veterans in this state coaching. You know those two. You've coached with Jim Morris. You played under Jim Morris. You've coached against him. You've coached against Mike Martin and played against him. Do you see yourself being like them 20, 30 years from now coaching? Is that something that's crossed your mind? Is that like the further, like you can't even comprehend what those guys done?
I don't think I can comprehend. I mean, if I'm still coaching college baseball in 20 years, I'm going to be really, really grateful. I mean, if I have half the wins that Mike Martin and Jim Morris have, I'll be ecstatic. I mean, those guys are Mount Rushmores of college baseball. And so it's really, really hard to envision. I mean, there's been, you're talking about, two of the best 4 or 5 coaches that have ever coached at this level. Luckily, I've got a front row seat for both of them. And they've been great. One's been a great mentor. One's been a great teacher, even though he hasn't tried to teach me. Just watching him and playing in the other dugout, the amount of information that I've learned from 11 has been unreal. But you talk about all the college coaches that have come through the door and out the door in the last 40 years. There aren't many that are still standing, and there are not many that have been that successful. And so I don't think anyone can aspire to be that great. I think it's just something that they just had it, and they've done an unbelievable job. And so I'm not going to compare myself to those guys ever, because I'm going to fall short every single time. So I'm just going to try to worry about this team, and and I'm sure that's how they did it. They just kept worrying about this year's team, and next you look back 40 years later, and you've won 40 games 40 years in a row, and you've been to a regional 44 straight times, and you do all that kind of stuff. And so anyone that tries to compare themselves to two guys that are on Mount Rushmore, I think is absolutely nuts.
Well, here's to maybe one day. You never know. Yeah. The next journey starts on Friday at 6:30 with the first of 3. 6 o'clock. Moved up to 6. That's right. Okay.
More family oriented around here.
6 o'clock against Siena we're starting with Siena for the umpteenth year in a row. Remember, it used to be Monmouth.
It was Monmouth.
It used to be Monmouth. Now it's Siena, and now it's Siena. So we're just pulling teams down from the Northeast.
Well, yeah, you're not going to go play in 15-degree weather. So
that's correct.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about.
By the way,
I used to love the Monmouth
February
games.
12th. It's 80 degrees here.
I know. But I used to love the Monmouth games because I'm from New Jersey, and I used to pronounce these kids' hometowns. I was the only guy who knew how to do it.
You had background.
But all right, I promised you guys 5 minutes to talk wrestling.
No,
no.
Here's the thing. No, here's the thing. Jeff actually wants to get into wrestling now.
No, listen. I'm now pro wrestling curious. I know, right? Because
late life.
I'm 35. But no, I because for whatever reason. So I work over at Full Sail full time, and we have NXT over there. And then for some reason I stumbled across CM Punk's pipe bomb, and I was like, this is amazing television. I'm completely gripped by this, and I really shouldn't be, because I was never a pro wrestling fan. Beyond Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, that's it.
Right.
Or
you used to mock me all the time.
I've mocked the two of them, and then, but okay. So here's my question to you. As a late in life rookie here, I'm like who's the guy that they did the movie on with Dennis Quaid?
Oh, Jim Morris.
Jim Morris.
Yeah.
As a Jim Morris style pro wrestling fan, okay, what should I be watching or looking for right now?
Well, geez, that's a great question.
What's the front door? What's the front door I need to go through?
You got to get onto the Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and the women. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. Obviously brings the outside wrestling fan in, and but then you got the new startup with the all elite wrestling with the Cody Rhodes and those guys starting that stuff. It's gonna be, I think it'll be pretty interesting. I think it'll be the first time that they're gonna probably do it the right way. I think that's gonna, it's not gonna be in the next 10 years, but that eventually could compete with WWE. So. I probably will not follow it that much, other than reading about it, because I don't have enough time in my life to follow.
You gotta wait till the summer.
Two wrestling, entities. So I'll stay with the WWE, stay true and loyal to the people that I fell in love with from the get go. So, but welcome to the dark side.
Hey, that's the way, right there. That's the perfect way to
out here. That's perfect. Greg Lovelady, once again, UCF baseball coach and connoisseur of professional wrestling. Thanks again, Coach. Good luck on Friday. We'll see you then.
Appreciate having me.
Thanks again to Coach, and thanks also to Ian McDougall for setting everything up. Ian is clutch, man. So I want to thank him for everything that he helps us out with on a daily and weekly basis, especially with baseball. So, all right. Well, your impressions. I feel like the issues that made their way into and around the program toward the end of last year that Greg was talking about, when we saw him last, I feel as though he feels optimistic that they have been resolved. Obviously, we won't know until they take the field, right? But aside from the actual on-field questions that he has to that he and the rest of the team really have to answer about the pitching staff and who steps up in the order and all that, it seems like he really likes the makeup of this team heading into the season. No.
Yeah, and he's talked about that with like some of their grad transfers that they brought in, how those guys, have brought in a sense of a looseness because they've done it before. They've been here, at other places for 2, 3, or 4 seasons. So they bring that experience with them, and thereby they also sort of bring a knowledge and a sort of a sense of what to expect that they can kind of pass on to the younger players. Greg is not shy with talking about how some of his freshmen last year, like Dalton Wingo and Griffin Bernardo, as freshmen were at points scared to fail and sort of overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation with college baseball and the whole the transition to that. And I think with this kind of these guys that he's brought in, guys like the Friday Night Starter, Grant Sherman, they don't have great UCF experience because they're just getting here for UCF, but they do have a lot of wealth of knowledge of college baseball, and I think that's going to help the team overall. And Greg has certainly stressed that in our first few times meeting with him before the season about how these veterans are going to help us out throughout the season because the young kids here can just pick their brains.
Well, we find out real quick this Friday. 6:00 is opening night. On Friday, February 15th.
Make sure you're there early, Murph, this time, unlike in our interview.
That's right.
Well, we'll make sure that we do because of the adjusted start time, 6 p.m. on Fridays this year.
6 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. And then 1 p.m. on Sunday. So that's the 3-game set with Siena. How many straight years have we opened with Siena? I don't think it's been that much.
No, I got to take a look at the series. I don't know. I'll get back to that.
You look at that. I actually want to ask Murph. You talked to the new pitching coach. We talked about Nick Oddie there. I asked Coach Lovelady about Nick Oddie. You had a chance to talk to him a little bit one-on-one.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on him and, in the adjustment period there with a new pitching coach and handling the pitching staff? Lovelady obviously very glowing about him and how he develops pitchers. Your thoughts on Nick?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems, I think a lot of his philosophies are pretty similar to the Justin Parkers of they want to pound the strike zone and not be afraid to pitch to contact. And really, with the staff they've assembled, they're going to be pitching to contact. Like Grant Sherman is not going to blow you away. He relies on changeups. He needs to get ground balls to win. He needs to keep his walks down. Sherman, who is a Cincinnati native, before he decided to go to Furman, he was actually recruited by both Lovelady at Wright State and Nick Oddie when Oddie was there at Xavier, and decided to go to Furman instead. And of course, now he's a grad transfer. Those two men are on the same staff together, and now they're all together at UCF. But I think you're going to see, and just going up and down the staff, Chris Williams is not a huge strikeout pitcher. Trevor Holloway's been okay. If you look at his previous numbers of strikeouts, Jordan Spicer has really electric stuff if he can control it. So this team, I think this whole philosophy of pitching to contact, which is kind of something that carries over from the previous regime with Parker, is something you're going to be hearing about a lot this year, and something that they sort of sport a lot of on their team. Also, let me give a shout out to Drew Roberts, the director of baseball ops, for getting me into that interview as I waited outside the door for a couple of minutes, waiting for Lovelady to finish a question.
Phaser set to stun, man. We couldn't hear you out there. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
By the way, I have an answer to that question. This is the first time since the last time UCF did not start the season by playing Siena was 2012. They started with LIU Brooklyn. The last time
last year they started the season with Virginia and Rice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That
That's right. I'm sorry. I'm
glad you're here, Murph, to correct Jeff on his.
Well, okay. I apologize for that.
The streak of playing Siena in consecutive years goes back 0 years.
No. We did play Siena last year, but it was in early mid-March. The last time UCF did not play Siena, seriously. No, this is interesting. Was 2009.
So you're saying that they play Siena at some point every season?
Every year. Okay.
Like,
well, no. I'll give you some more information. Ready for this?
Oh, please! I'm begging.
I know you are. All-time series between UCF and Siena. The Knights lead the series 54-4.
Well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Going back to 1977, it is UCF's highest win percentage against an opponent that they played at least 25 times in program history, and UCF also has more home wins against Siena than against any other team that they have ever played, and that includes Bethune-Cookman, USF, Stetson, and Rollins.
I'm sure they're already on the 2020 slate.
Congratulations. I just gave Siena a ton of bulletin board material on that one. Yeah. Friday at 6. UCF and Siena 3-game set. UCF trying to get wins numbers 55, 56, and 57 against the Saints, whose mascot is a St. Bernard, and I think that's awesome. Softball got underway. Eric Lopez, first weekend for Coach Bear, Cindy Ball Malone, as UCF softball coach. They split 4 games in the Friends of Jacqueline tournament. One got wiped out due to rain against North Florida. It was a rough start, 0 for their first 2 against Ole Miss and number 21 Minnesota, but then they come back to get a win against number 24 Ohio State on Saturday, and also beat George Mason 7-0 that same day. So the Knights are 2-2 before they head out to the big tournament out west, Puerto Vallarta College Challenge against Washington, Northern Colorado, Mississippi State, and Sacramento State. Lopez, I'm going to toss it to you for the evaluation of this opening weekend. You win over top 25 team in Ohio State, not bad. Also win over George Mason, so you go 1-1 against top 25 teams. And raise a few eyebrows, I think, heading into weekend number 2. No.
Well, it's still to be determined. I think it's a team still learning about each other and learning the new staff and the transition. I mean, they struggled offensively in the first 2 games. They got shut out by Ole Miss and Minnesota. Minnesota has an all Big Ten pitcher. They could be a Big Ten pitcher of the year. Pfizer that shut them out, and they were getting no hit in that Ohio State game Saturday night, going into the 4th, 5th inning, and you could just tell in the building that they were kind of pressing a little bit. And once Jasmine Esparza got that 2 RBI double down the line to give them the lead, you could just sense the kind of relief, I think, and excitement that, hey, we can hit the ball. And they held on to beat Ohio State, and then they carry that momentum over to the George Mason game. You mentioned the UNF game on Sunday was the one that got washed out. It was a terrible day in Orlando, misty weather. It was just an interesting weekend from that standpoint because there was just a lot of distractions outside the softball complex. It was Thursday in their season opener. There was the men's basketball game that Murph and I were at, the Houston game, and then Saturday you had a gimmick football over there with the
gimmick football. Don't give me that. Anyway,
as me and Ian McDougal say, if there's no kicking game involved, no kickoffs, then it's gimmick football. All right, that's just is what it is. Which was cool, by the way, because I was able to watch the tailgating and all that stuff from softball stadium. It's very interesting. But 2-2, they go to Mexico. They got Washington, who's a national title contender right off the bat. Obviously, the storylines there. Sydney Ball was a former assistant under Heather Tarr back in 2011, I believe. She also coached Victoria Haywood. Victoria Haywood was an All-American at Washington. She's the director of ops at UCF now. Jen Salem was a volunteer coach, All-American, a national champion at Washington when they won the title in 2009. So there's a lot of ties to Washington and UCF in that matchup. Mississippi State's also an NCAA tournament team. They're very talented. Northern Colorado has a new head coach in Ben Garcia, who comes over from Colorado Mesa, which is a Division II powerhouse, top 5 team. So he's trying to translate that to Division I, and then you got Sacramento State. So we'll see how they handle it. International, first time I believe UCF's ever played international at the Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. So it'll be interesting to see. The ball tends to fly out there, so they better hit the ball a little bit. So if they can go 2-2, I think this week, I would consider that a success considering the competition they get. Their schedule will get a lot easier following this tournament, and I think they still got to work out some kinks and kind of build some consistency.
Well, Puerto Vallarta is right on the coast, so it's not the higher elevation that you get in a place like, Guadalajara or Mexico City, but it's still, actually really nice. It's along the main peninsula. It's not even in Baja, so if you know your Mexico geography, it's quite beautiful out there. So, no, it's going to be a really nice place to have.
Poor guy, Jeff Sharon here.
Seriously.
Murphy, the tour guy.
Yeah, no, it's not far from Guadalajara.
You should have gone on the trip with the team here. You could have showed them around.
No, not far from Guadalajara. So, it should be a really cool experience for the players, and then they come back home after that for 5, including 2 against Pitt, 1 against Penn State, 1 against Coastal Carolina and La Tech. So, again, this early season tournament business is up and running full swing. They got 2 doubleheaders next weekend at home. They're going to be tired heading back from this game. They got the 2 games on Saturday, by the way, are Northern Colorado and Mississippi State. They got Washington on Friday and Sacramento State on Sunday. So, you got 2 more top 25s you're going to be under your belt there before you come home for 1-2 tournaments, and then they have 1 more trip to make in the preseason before conference play starts. As far as a tournament is concerned, with USF and their Clearwater tournament, a couple of games, here and there against Stetson and Florida Gainesville before that, but off to a good start. Congratulations, by the way, to Cindy Ball Malone, who, by the way, with her first victory, also eclipsed a milestone. Eric Lopez, her first win at UCF, and I believe that was was also her 100th career victory, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, that's her 100th career win as a head coach. It was funny. I was talking to her a little bit afterwards. Her first win as a player, she was an All-American at Pacific. She's a Hall of Famer. She's the greatest player ever in Pacific softball history. Her first ever win was against we were trying to discuss that. We're trying to figure out her first win and things like that in her playing career. One of the things I noticed was her second game of her career. You guys will appreciate her second game of her career. They upset Stanford. Mm-hmm. That had Jessica Mendoza on the field. She actually out-hit Jessica Mendoza. If you heard the interview I had with her a couple weeks back on this episode, she's very close with Jessica Mendoza. It's one of her better friends and all that.
Weren't they high school when they go to high school together too?
Correct. They went to high school together. So she played in that game in Stanford, and she had a base hit in that game. Mendoza went winless. Another player that played for Stanford in that game that pinch ran was the name Ramona Shelbourne, who's obviously an NBA insider now for ESPN.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Like that.
Wow. That is good stuff, man. Good
stuff.
So,
softball guru.
There you go. Softball Woj hitting it again. 2-2 are the Knights, but as they head down to Mexico, that should be it should be an interesting weekend to see how they handle all that together. So I got a couple updates that I wanted to pass along on some other sports here. This weekend, the UCF men's golf team heads to Gainesville for the Gator Invitational 2-day event Saturday and Sunday up there. So we'll be keeping an eye on Bryce Waller's team. And a quick update on women's golf. They start the weekend in Melbourne at the Moon Golf Invitational, another 2-day event. That's Monday and Tuesday. And then they've got no dates on the slate until March, so they got some time off after that when they actually have a dual match with ECU at Eagle Creek Golf Club in Orlando on Tuesday, March the 5th. So best of luck to UCF Golf. Track and field update for you as well. They actually just finished up the Music City Challenge in Nashville. Their next date is going to be the American Athletic Conference Indoor Championships, which are held in Birmingham, Alabama, February 22nd through the 24th. So we'll see if any Knights can qualify for the NCAA Indoors, which are slated for March the 8th and the 9th. And then after that, the outdoor season starts the following week at the Track and Soccer Complex, March 15th and 16th with the Black and Gold Invitational. So men's tennis, real quick. They're 1-5 right now. They after the win at Indiana, they lost 6-1 at number 16 Michigan in Ann Arbor, and they are still on the road. They got 2 weeks off before they go to UAB, and then they're at Samford on February 24th. Both those matches, by the way, February 24th. And then they don't come home to the USTA Tennis Complex until the 26th against Bethune-Cookman. So very difficult start for them, but of course they're playing some of the best teams in the country. So, and then of course you got that USTA College Match Day on Sunday, March the 3rd. Women's tennis is 4-2, 1-0 in the American, 3-0 at home. They finished up the ITA National Indoors, and now they restart team play on Friday, 5 p.m. in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. We want Bama. Oh, we got them. At Ole Miss on Sunday as well before they're back home for Georgia State on Thursday. So there's your update on tennis. So, wow, we blasted through this thing. Don't forget, this is one of 2 episodes this week. We have the Hall of Fame episode, which you definitely want to check out. 2 great interviews there.
I was in a tux. We were all in a tux.
Yeah, we were all dressed up, all dressed up and nowhere to go.
I don't wear suit jackets, so I would have looked odd.
Your hat game would have been primo though, as usual.
It would have been amazing. Yeah, I know. So, you're right.
Well, what are you guys working on this week? Murph, we'll start with you.
There's just everything. There's a lot happening, Jeffrey. It's a really
You're
long
all
week.
eaten up with baseball.
No, because baseball's on Friday. But you got basketball split in the middle of that. There's probably going to be basketball availability, but actually both men's and women's basketball availability tomorrow.
Should I bring an air mattress over to campus for you since you're going to be basically?
I would love to go back in the dorms for a weekend. Can I just go back to Nike for a weekend?
Those freezing cold concrete block dorms.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not like you're talking to a person who hasn't slept outside before. Come on, Jeffrey.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, no, it's fun. It's a fun time of year because there's so many things happening. There's a confluence of sports. So
that got deep in a hurry.
Important. Yeah.
Lopez, what are you working on?
Well, I will be. I might be following Murph into that media availability. I feel like I'm the jinx. I've tried to go twice. Once there wasn't one, and then the second one we had to go do the love. Actually, that was the real reason why Murph was late in the Lovelady interview. That was during the men's basketball availability that we aired earlier. But I'm going to track this Hall of Fame situation with UCF. I'm covering a Magic game, big game, Magic playoff chase, baby, going against the Hornets.
What are they? 11 games under 500, but they're 2 games out of the 8 spot.
Be negativity here, Mr. DePaulo's guy. They're 6 under 500. They're playing very well.
Just 6 under 500. I gotcha.
That's correct, baby. In the East, that works. Obviously, we'll be a little bit of that.
When is that game?
Valentine's night, baby. Thursday night.
Oh, that's so. Did the Magic play on Saturday?
No, that's All-Star weekend. We have All-Star break.
I was worried because if they did, there'd be no fans there because they're all watching the U.S. UCF basketball game.
I'm telling you, I'm calling it. You're going to see some Penny Hardaway jerseys in the stands, and I'm talking Magic jerseys now, man. I'm telling you.
Oh boy,
there'll be somebody.
Someone's gonna show up there with a Memphis State Penny Hardaway jersey. You guys know that for sure.
That'd be sweet. I like that.
So, I've got
look. I mean, it's a busy time. Real quick too. Baseball season underway. Make sure you do follow Murph, the Ken Rosenthal of UCF Baseball, inside at it. We're going to have in-depth coverage all year in UCF Baseball. We're your home for UCF Baseball coverage. So
I object.
Also
where's the bow tie?
Luke Saris as well.
Yeah.
Luke Saris as well.
We cannot.
Luke is kind of like we'll make Luke like the Jeff Passan, maybe. I guess is he Jeff Passan? or
like
Joel Sherman. I mean, I don't know which route you want to go with, Murph. As your
Yeah,
very good.
But Luke has been amazing helping us out with basketball and baseball coverage. Luke Saris, SBN on Twitter. Make sure you follow. # Savage Luke, by the way, because he knows how to bring it. He's been doing our recaps. Got a great recap of the USF game up there as well, and a couple of other things he's been working on too. I've got a piece up right now, actually 2 pieces that I'm really excited about. We took a look at Bill Connolly's S&P Plus, and I calculated out some win projections for UCF football for 2019 based on the data that's out now. Obviously, that's subject to change. But how does a current win projection of 9.7 wins grab you guys?
That's about right. 10-2.
I'd be pretty happy with that.
That's all right.
So I show you all the math there. Also, I'm working on a roster breakdown of UCF football as they head into spring practice of some pressing needs that they're going to have in the upcoming recruiting session, because you break it down by position and class, so we'll be taking a look at that. And I also have a recap of the Orlando Apollo's opening night, which was this past Saturday at Spectrum Stadium. 40-6 win for Steve Spurrier in his first game back on the football field, coaching a team since 2015. Garrett Gilbert played pretty well. We had and the run game was working for Orlando, led by 2 former UCF offensive linemen, Aaron Evans and Justin McCray. So didn't see much from Rennell Hall. He had one carry. They threw to him, almost scored a touchdown in the first quarter, but a bit of a difficult throw. And then who are they playing next week? San Antonio. They're at San Antonio this coming week. So hopefully we'll hear some more from the UCF guys on the Apollos, and as they try to fight their way into the NFL, and it's kind of cool having some football, some more football in Orlando. I was pleasantly I don't want to say surprised, but I was encouraged by the quality of play for the game. So something worth keeping an eye on. All right, fellas, thanks again. Enjoy the weekend. I know it's going to be crazy busy because here we are in the spring sports equinox with the basketball crossing over with the start of the spring sports. So if you need any supplies, please just keep me in the loop. I'll be stocking up on canned goods.
Thank you. You can send over like an IV drip that I'll hook up to myself while on the media table.
Spare fedoras too, Brian?
Yes. So you could go down to a hat shop. It's in Lake Buena Vista. It's very nice. I forgot the name of it, but I'll give you the address and some money. Yes,
we'll be working on that. I'll be keeping everybody afloat. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, for Eric Lopez and Brian Murphy, I'm Jeff Sharon. Thank you so much for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. By the way, a few thanks to pass out. Thanks to Greg Lovelady once again. Thanks to Ian McDougall for helping us set everything up.
Former Purdue cook, you're great.
That's right. Note, if you ever need a kickoff specialist, Ian McDougall is your guy. Never mind Brad D'Aloiso. You need that guy on your team. All right. Thanks again also to Luke Saris for all of his help as well. And thanks to you for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.